Well, thank you very much for joining us on this Friday afternoon. What does the picture really look like from the work that you do? What is it that you were seeing pre and post lockdown or during lockdown?
Yeah, the picture doesn't look good. And of course, I think it's something which is expected. That is when business have to close down and not operate, there's no revenue that comes in. But of course, retrenchment are just unfortunate because sometimes employers reach a point where they have no options but to retrench. Like I said, it is an unfortunate situation, but unfortunately, that's what the employers, for them sometimes to survive, they will have to retrench some employees.
Under what circumstances do retrenchments take place?
Listen, in terms of the Act, there are various reasons why a retrenchment would be legal. One is when you restructure your business because you feel that it is not bringing revenue. One, it could be that technological reasons, that you introduce new equipment that will replace the human beings. One is economic reasons, like in this case that we're in now, where economic reasons would be caused by this pandemic, which makes businesses not to operate in the manner, in a normal way in which they used to operate. And
please finish your thought.
No, that's fine.
What would be a fair procedure where retrenchments are concerned?
Section 189 of the Labour Relations Act set out that process. At the point when you reach a decision or contemplate, because you have to contemplate, you can't have a final decision and then you consult. Then it says once you contemplate that as a result of your restructuring or economic reasons or technological reasons that you are going to retrench people, you are required to consult. And the purpose for that consultation is to consult about, one, how to avoid the retrenchment. If you can't avoid, you consult about mitigating that retrenchment if it has to happen, and also the timing of the retrenchment and the number of people, the criteria that has to be followed when you do the retrenchment. Those are the issues that you consult about. And you have to consult the trade union. Where there's no trade union, then you have to consult the employees who are going to be affected by the retrenchment.
What's an alternative to a retrenchment? Are there ways or creative ways that employers can use to mitigate against it?
Listen, South Africa is very rigid because in other countries you find a situation where instead of retrenching people, when you work 8 hours, you would work 4 hours and the 4 hours would be worked by another person, and which is a half a loaf is better than no bread. But in this country, what we do, we always feel that, no, we don't need, if it's economic reasons, we don't need Sunday, and therefore Sunday must go, and then you have somebody else who's going to work the whole day, which is 7 hours a day or 8 hours a day. We always retrench that way. We never consider the issue, which is, to me, is an alternative, where sometimes you say, okay, instead of retrenching all these 10 people that I was going to retrench, they are going to work half of the hours that they used to work. Or number of days. If you used to work 6 days, 5 days, you are going to work 3 days or 2 days. It's better than having a person unemployed.
I'd like to go back to your earlier point of consulting and off the back of what you've just said. So when you're consulting and you're consulting with employees, if these are some of the things that are brought up and the employer still does not take into consideration, is there any recourse for employees?
If you feel that the proposal that you put was not taken into account, and had it been taken account, the retrenchment would have been avoided. Of course, you can refer that dispute to the CCMA and you to refer an unfair dismissal. There are other instances where you don't even want to wait for that dismissal to happen. If the employer does not follow the proper processes in terms of consultation, you can go to court and interdict that process.
And in terms of just timelines, I mean, what are we looking at? Because in that time or in the interim, people also need to eat.
When what happens?
When you take that process to court.
No, if you take the process to court for an interdict, you are still in the employ, remember. You would still be in the employ, but you are interdicting the process. But if you wait for the process to happen and then you get to be dismissed, unfortunately, there is no timeline. But CCMA is very quick, though. I must say, our CCMA is very quick, efficient, because if you refer your dispute to the CCMA today, rest assured, by the end of the week, CCMA will send you a notice telling you that your matter is set down for conciliation because they've got 21 days before the date of the conciliation. So that's what the Act requires. They will be telling you in 21 days your matter will sit down for conciliation.
Is there what we would call unfair retrenchments, and what would that constitute?
The unfair retrenchment would be it goes to the unfair dismissal, which is for the dismissal to be fair, there must be a valid reason, and the process must be fair. So for it to be unfair, it means that the reason which you provide for the retrenching of these people is not valid. One, it could be that you have not properly considered the information that was given, or the process that we are following is a sham. You are using retrenchment. You remember, retrenchment is not the fault of an employee. It could be that you are using retrenchment in order to make profits, and you can't do that. You can't retrench people to make profit. You can retrench in order to survive as a business, but to make profit, you can't. And in instances like that, courts have declared that kind of retrenchment as unfair or unfair dismissal.
Thank you very much for your time this afternoon.